Chapter 8. Any apples left? They weren't far from Sanford, and Jake's stomach was growling. He nudged at the bag sitting between them and then flicked his eyes to the fuel gauge of the truck. We're only just going to have enough gas to get us home. Mackenzie hummed non-committally and rummaged through the bag, finally pulling out a red apple, which she promptly licked. The sight of her small pink tongue against the glossy skin of the apple almost had him veering off the road. "What are you doing?" His voice was unnaturally hoarse. "I licked it, so it's mine." Jake emitted a low growl at the thought of licking the milky white column of her neck. Would that then make her his? "If you think a bit of spit is going to stop me from eating that apple, you're sadly mistaken," he warned, reaching out a long arm and snatching the fruit from her. "Hey!" she protested, swatting ineffectually at his shoulder. He took a large bite and chewed loudly. "Tastes good." "You're such a dick." "I thought you didn't want to talk about my dick." The instant flush that warmed her face had his blood rushing south. With her red cheeks facing the window, he adjusted himself discreetly. The constant proximity to her, without access to a cold shower, was like playing with fire, and damn if he didn't want to get burned. Jake didn't want to push Mac, but he was desperate to know if she'd been thinking about yesterday's declaration. His adoration of her had been in a pressure cooker for years, and even when things seemed serious with that asshole Peter, he couldn't turn it off. There was no stopping the ground-shaking reverence of his feelings. His heart was heavy with them. The only reason Jake was on Instagram was so he could follow Mackenzie. The only reason he couldn't commit to a relationship was because no one else was her. Hell, he still had a t-shirt of hers she'd left behind in Chloe's room 6 years ago. This wasn't a passing crush for him. Casting her a quick side-eye, he sighed quietly. Could she see past the fact he was Chloe's brother? Her younger brother? "You've gone quiet," Mackenzie said, reaching over and grabbing the forgotten half-eaten apple from his fingers. He winced as the movement caused her top to pull tight against the swell of her breasts. "Fuck." "Just thinking," he said. "About what?" "Wrapping your thighs around my hips and fucking the recollection of every previous man from your memory. Probably best that you—" His voice cracked and he cleared his throat. "Don't know. Have you thought about where you're going to stay? I'm assuming your dad isn't an option." "You assume correctly. I wouldn't stay in his broke-down trailer if you paid me." "You can crash with me." It was her turn to give him a sideways look. "I'll stay with one of the girls. Chloe, if Ash isn't back yet. Or Rach. Her long hours at the vet clinic make her a good roommate. Not sure if I can handle the hot mess that is Cat on a 24/7 basis, but I could manage for a couple of days." "The offer's there." He shrugged. They passed the "Welcome to Sanford" sign and fell silent, the steady whirring of tires on asphalt filling the truck. Tightening his hands on the steering wheel, Jake swallowed. He hadn't allowed himself to think about what could have happened in the 24 hours he'd been gone. Dread settled low in his belly. Coming around the last bend in the road before the bridge, Jake saw the local fire truck barricading it, planted sideways across the road and flanked on both sides by several vehicles. But it was the men standing on top of the fire truck with AK-47 assault rifle that had Jake's skin tightening, the hairs on his arms rising. He jerked the truck to the other side of the road, his foot easing from the accelerator. "What are they doing?" Mackenzie breathed, transfixed. "Is that Buddy Robinson and Tom Brenner?" "Looks like it." Jake pulled his truck to a stop 50 feet from the makeshift blockade. He'd played football with Buddy, but Tom was a mean son of a bitch. Not knowing what to expect, Jake slowly swung his door open and made to step out. "Hold it right there!" Tom yelled. "Tom, it's me, Jake Brent. We just want—" "I said hold it right there." Tom growled. "Quinn, check him out." At the sight of Quinn, Jake's cousin, jogging out from behind the truck, his lungs expanded enough for a decent breath. "Jesus, Jake, we were getting worried." Quinn puffed, coming to a halt at the open driver's door. "We expected you back last night." "What the hell is going on?" Jake was unable to take his eyes from the AK-47s pointed at them. "Can you tell them to put their fucking rifles down?" Quinn waved his arm at Buddy and Tom. "It's all right, boys. It's just Jake and Mackenzie Lyons. Tom grunted and climbed down from the truck, his weapons still at the ready. It's not all right until they've been cleared. Cleared? Asked Jake. Quinn's face clouded over, his brows drawing together. It's been bad. Mayor Townsend is saying more than half the town is gone. He's set up a quarantine for everyone who comes down with symptoms, and so far no one's come out. Gone. Mackenzie was leaning over Jake to hear Quinn better. Dead, he confirmed grimly. Mackenzie choked on a sob. Chloe? Jake asked roughly. Chloe, Kat, and Rachel are all fine. At least they were when I saw them an hour ago. Frantic over you two, though. Have you seen my dad? Mackenzie said, surprising Jake. He didn't think she'd seen or spoken to her father in years, but he guessed the apocalypse overshadowed family estrangement. Get out of the truck, growled Tom, shoving in front of Quinn before he could answer, pulling a surgical mask over his mouth and nose. No one's coming into Sanford unless they've been cleared. Jake glanced at Mackenzie, concerned at how short of breath she appeared. It's okay, let's just get this over with. Have you got your inhaler? She nodded, and he waited for her to use it, his heart rate mirroring her breathing as it calmed. Tom and Quinn backed away so Mackenzie and Jake could come round to the front of the vehicle. Jake took Mackenzie's trembling hand and squeezed. We're almost home. Her fear was palpable, and Jake's throat ached with wanting to comfort her, with wanting to draw her into his arms and be far away from this fucking moment in time. And why the fuck aren't you wearing your mask? Tom hissed at Quinn. Quinn's features hardened. Because it's Jake, and he wouldn't put the entire town at risk by coming in here if he was infected. Well, why the fuck does he have dried blood on his shirt? Tom raised the rifle to his shoulder. Jake's mouth went dry. I can explain. He stepped forward, raising his hands palm up. Don't come 1 foot closer. Tom slid the bolt of the rifle and loaded a cartridge into the chamber. Tell me that's not blood, man, Quinn entreated, his eyes flashing with panic. It's not. Well, it is. Don't make this hard on us, boy. Just get back in the truck, turn around and go, Tom ordered in a hard voice. It's not the virus. I'm not infected, I swear. Sweat beaded on Jake's forehead, itchy and hot. The relief at having reached Sanford, at being so close to home, crashed swiftly, replaced by a desperation that tasted sour. It was me! Mackenzie stepped forward, hands also raised in supplication. I accidentally gave him a bloody nose. Back off, bitch, Tom threatened. Watch your mouth. Jake exploded and turned to Quinn. He's a fucking electrician. What makes him qualified to be doing this? Where's the police chief? Or that new deputy? What's his name? Deputy Davies. And they're both dead, Quinn said. That silenced everyone. The sun overhead cast long shadows of their uneasy impasse. Do you have any symptoms? Fever? Headache? Aching joints? Quinn asked finally, his voice threaded with a mix of angst and hope. Jake shook his head, heart in throat. I swear it, Quinn. Neither of us are sick. He's been bleeding from his nose. He ain't coming in, Tom growled. What if I vouch for him? Quinn said. Your vouching means nothing if we're all dead. Okay, then we compromise. Let them over the bridge, but not into the safe zone. They can stay in one of the houses outside the boundary for 48 hours, and then we reassess. Quinn rolled his heavily muscled shoulders to release tension. I'm not turning them away, Tom. Safe zone, said Jake. We can't defend the entire town, so Townsend has sectioned off a part as a safe area, the safe zone, and everyone is inside that boundary except those who've been quarantined. Who are you defending the town from? Mackenzie asked, shading her eyes from the glare of the sun and inching closer to Jake. He pulled her against his side, his arm bracketing her shoulders. People like you, snarled Tom. Infected people looking for safety and instead killing us all. We don't know they're infected, Quinn said firmly. They aren't exhibiting any of the signs except the blood on the shirt, which they've explained. They can't prove it, said Tom. Neither can you. I'll escort them into the evac area and guarantee they'll stay there until we've cleared them. If they approach the main gate before I've personally cleared them, I'll shoot them on sight. Tom promised before swinging his large frame away and striding back to the fire truck, spitting on the ground as he went. "Lovely welcoming committee you've got going," Mackenzie murmured. "Thank you for standing up for us." "Not a problem," Quinn said. "But if it's all the same to you, I might hold off on the welcoming hug. Drive around to the left and I'll move the barricade, and then follow me. Jake, your home's inside the safe zone, but you can crash at my house. It's in the evac area." Which meant Chloe was also in the safe zone. The tension in Jake's gut eased some. His parents were on vacation, and Chloe would be looking after their grandmother. Not for the first time, he wondered how his parents were faring. Tom grudgingly waved them through the blockade, and they followed Quinn, riding a dirt bike across the bridge and into the outer suburbs of Sanford. The streets were disconcertingly vacant, save for a band of dogs that were nosing around a knocked-over trash can. Pulling up in front of Quinn's brick home, Jake pulled on the handbrake and turned to face Mackenzie. "We made it. Quinn'll let the girls know we're here, and we'll see them in 48 hours. We're safe." Mackenzie wrapped her arms around her middle, and Jake noticed she was shaking. "It just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like home. And what if we are infected and we're just not showing symptoms yet?" she whispered. It had been a niggling thought at the back of Jake's mind also, but he refused to give it credence. "We're not sick, Mac. We're going to be fine." Leaning over, he cupped her face tenderly, stroking calloused thumbs over the smoothness of her cheek. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you.